they have some sort of romantic attraction to one or another gender, but then they say they don't have any sexual attraction. And I guess that's hard for people to understand too, because I mean, partly because for many people those like sexual like desires are very strong for them and like central to their lives.
Well, I'm Tess. I really like reading. I'm part of the book club on campus, so I like reading for class and not for class. I like watching anime, like that app where you play with cats on your phone. I love it. I like drawing, writing. I also really like going to neighborhoods. I've been going for 19. I go to Emmanuel. I'm currently a sophomore. I'm in English and secondary ed major. I have no minor. Okay, so among all like the questioning things and things that I'm not sure about, I'm asexual, which is actually defined as not experiencing sexual attraction, which means like if people might look at someone and be like, wow, that person's attractive, I'd really like to get with them or something, like asexuals just don't really feel it. There was a time where like I went to the doctors and they asked like, are you sexually active? And I said no, but then like he had asked why not. And I mean, I'm not sure if he assumed that I was lying and like because I was like 18 or something. You know, did he assume that like all 18-year-olds are sexually active? Like I don't know if he was just trying to see if I was lying about it, to see if like I was really sexually active but didn't want to tell him, but it's like that's not your business to ask me like why or why not. Especially this year has been like really rough for a lot of like, I don't know, just questioning and stuff like that, like both asexuality and otherwise, especially like trying to figure out if you're aromantic or not, even though you're like in a relationship with a guy, so that's difficult. I think I just really started realizing it when I never really got like a starting point where I was like, wow, I am really interested in like having sex with people. Then it was just suddenly like I never got to it. So it's like I was in a relationship but I was just like, it's not even like you could think like, oh, a couple of years down the road or something when I feel like more comfortable, mature. It's just like it's not something I ever envision me doing. So it's just like there's never a moment where I'm like, oh, okay, here it is. It's just like, no, like it's just not there. So
So this is my disco ball. It's where we do the partying over here. This is the bed. It's where the magic happens. It's my TV. It's where I play the video games. I love video games.
The transgender person has a gender identity that doesn't match up with the sex that was assigned to them at birth. And so oftentimes they have the sense that like their body doesn't match up with their gender identity.
Well, I'm Jamie Chrisman. I'm 22 years old. I enjoy skydiving, long walks on the beach, snowboarding. I used to be on a competitive snowboarding team. Yeah, for a while I could do like half-pipe tricks and stuff like that. I love adventures, and I'm a pretty easygoing person. I was 7, and I always kind of just thought something was different with me. In the elementary school, you know, when they like line the girls up and the guys up, I used to always go to the girls' side and they were like, no, stop it. But I would go anyway. And then they told me to not go there. The analogy that I had was just imagine waking up one day with a Donald Trump mask glued on your face. Like, you know that you're not Donald, but everyone sees you as Donald. So the only way to kind of get people to, like, your inner self is to change your outward appearance. Because you know you're not Donald, but, you know, everyone thinks you are.
I think all of those different elements can kind of be on a continuum. So you, in terms of gender identity, you might identify really strongly as a female. You might identify really strongly as a male. or you kind of might feel like you're more somewhere in the middle of that.
I'm Sam Farquharson, formerly known as Sarah Grease Farquharson. I go to Emmanuel College. I am an English, writing, and literature major. I also dance for Colleges of the Fenway, and that's a lot of fun. I do ballet, modern, contemporary, and African. So it's a lot of different muscle groups that hurt. Well, I identify as gender neutral, so I go by they, them, their pronouns. To me, a common question I get asked is, oh, is this a political statement? Is this you saying no to the patriarchy? I'm like, no, this is me saying I don't feel like a boy or a girl. At the end of the day, like, when someone's like, you're a woman, I'm like, no, I'm not. And it's like, for my gut reaction to be like, I'm not a woman, really made me think like, well, what am I?
You know, when people will bring up things where they'll say like, oh, do they really face like as many problems as other people in the LGBTQA community? It's like, then you have to explain like, yes, they do and why, and people don't always agree with you. And then sometimes when you say like, oh, I'm asexual, and people say like, what is that, but like in a condescending tone. So like it's like from the get-go, like it's difficult to explain to people. In society, you have romantic relationships everywhere. You have heterosexual relationships everywhere, like literally like billboards, magazines, movies. Like every movie has like a love interest in it. It's just like it's really tiring to see all of it and just being like, why am I not like these people?
And I think cisgender is, you know, people who are privileged in the sense that their gender identity does match up with their sex assigned at birth, but people just oftentimes take that for granted and they don't really recognize it as a privilege or something they're lucky to have.
It'll be fine. Yeah, it's hard to kind of be a trans person in society today. I mean, like a ton of people get killed just for being trans, and I used to, every time I walked outside, I used to be scared that, you know, someone would like bully me or punch me or something. I've gotten confronted a few times. Yeah. I freak out every time I have to tell someone. And I've had people tell others that I'm trans without my knowledge, like before I even meet the person, and that annoys me because it's a safety issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who's sort of genderqueer in the sense that they don't conform to very traditional gender roles is probably going to face some sort of stigma. And I think it's gotten a little bit better, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, there's enormous amounts of anxiety. I used to get panic attacks all the time. Like, especially years ago, I would just freak out. And I was depressed. I tried to commit suicide twice. Once I almost jumped into a train, and another time I took pills. So yeah, there's an enormous amount of anxiety.
That led to me being depressed, just knowing that I am not what's in my pants and I don't know what to do about it and I don't know what it is, and just not being ignorant to what is out there definitely allows one to really get depressed and sad, and it's a yucky feeling. And I think education about it, and even educating people who are cis and don't understand, like, well, what is gender identity? It's so important because that allows your identity to be validated.
I've had weeks where like I just felt like so sick because I couldn't determine these things about myself, and it's like I know myself more than anyone else in the world, and it's really hard when you don't understand things and you can't explain them, and people are trying to tell you that somehow that's not as important or as difficult a situation as other people's situations.
like it's hard because you want like transgender rights, but you also don't want to be seen with other trans people. There's this whole thing in the trans community where you really don't want us to be seen with other trans people because you yourself don't want to be seen as trans. So it's a hard situation. Yeah, I mean, I have like one other trans friend. I don't really know a lot of trans people myself. Like, there's like this whole inward transphobia, I guess.
I'm happy being gender neutral. Like, I have my days where I feel like a monster. I feel like, why can't I just be this like straight female and like dudes and want to wear dresses and paint my nails and like feel girly, and like that's just not who I am. But I also I'm not a boy. Like, I don't want a phallic organ. I don't want to be a man. I want to be Sam.
I haven't figured out everything yet, and I might never figure out everything. Like, I could be questioning for the rest of my life, but that's still a valid identity, and like that's who I am. So, don't try to tell me that I'm a certain way, or expect me to come up with an answer when that might never happen, and that's okay.
I think I would tell people that it's important to be validated with my gender identity, and I think it's important to understand I'm still human and I still feel, and like I'm gender neutral and I'm black. I'm gender neutral and I'm a Christian. Like, I'm gender neutral and I have PTSD. Like, intersectionality is like a thing in life that occurs. Like, you are not just one identity, you are many identities, and it's just important to understand that because someone's gender identity is this doesn't mean they are another thing.
This sounds kind of corny, but if you were to have a few words for all of those who would still be confused, I mean, obviously there's still people who are going to be very ignorant to the topic and don't want to accept it, but to those who are just confused for the sake of confusion, who could use a few words of knowledge on the topic, what would you have to say to appease to their misunderstanding of like gender roles and the fluidity of all of it?
So, we dealing with people who are confused just about these issues.
Yeah.
But not so much about their own identity.
Not that they're against them, but they just don't know enough to have a common acceptance of the topic.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sitting here like talking about terminology, but I feel like the best way to gain an understanding of things like this is to just talk to people. So, go out and find people who are different from you and have a conversation with them. And I think that sort of emotional engagement, like interpersonal interaction, is the best way to kind of take up a different perspective and understand a point of view different from your own.
Good.
Yeah.
And don't be intimidated to talk to someone.
Sure. Absolutely.